Peg of my heart, I love you, don't let us part. I love you, I always knew it would be you. Since I heard your lifting laughter, it's your Irish heart I'm after. Peg of my heart, your glances make my heart say, how's chances, come be my own. Come make your home in my heart. Ooh, just a dream of love. Peg of my heart, I love you, don't let us part. I love you, I always knew it would be you. Since I heard your lifting laughter, it's your Irish heart I'm after. Peg of my heart, your glances make my heart say.
Players at St. Mary's Church, and she was in this play, and she was Miss Beautiful, and she was beautiful. She was a doll. That's when your father first saw her. I think he decided I'd go out with her.
That devil.
And she was in the play, and I can't remember the name of the play. I knew it for years, but I forgot it now. And that's when I first knew Cheryl. I didn't know who she was. She was on the stage, you know, and I thought, who's that one?
Was that at St. Mary's?
St. Mary's, yeah. The last team players, they had
I never knew that.
And how old would she have been then?
Oh, she probably was 21, probably around then. Because she was, one of the little younger, older ones.
Oh.
So that's when I first met Charlotte. And then Dick started going out with her, you know.
Was she working at that time?
She was a telephone operator.
Even then,
because she was a very telephone operator for many years.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think that's about the first recollection I have of her.
Then they started dating, and she'd come home and meet the family.
And so, but she was so cute. She was adorable. And so we all fell in love with her. She wasn't the Gingham Girl, but it was one of those plays, you know.
Oh, that's
I never heard that.
No.
And then, of course, she moved down on Parker Street, so we did see some of her then, you know, more, the whole family. And she was a very good-hearted person. I mean, I used to always be jealous because she kept reading Leo, Dressed to the Hill.
Did she?
That's when pleated skirts first came out, you know, those accordion pleated skirts. And I was dying for one. Rita had one, I didn't have one.
Well, you and Rita were like, what, 14 years old?
Yeah, right there.
13,
I said when
14.
Jeannie was born, she came home to O'Connor's house because she had phlebitis. And so every day I said we'd practically have a powder on because Dick had to go down and get the baby and bring her up because I was mad because she was down to O'Connor's, you know.
So Mother was laid up a long time?
Oh, yes. Well, you know, all her whole life. Don't you remember that leg she bandaged the day she died?
Yes, yes.
And so she had a long recovery. Then I think you went to, I was telling Ricky about the house, bringing the furniture into the house.
Oh, gosh.
So,
You've heard that, Peg.
Is this a welfare story?
Yeah.
yes.
okay.
Tell that story, Peg. That's a great story.
That's a good one.
Well, then the IH was closed. And they were moving down to Tennessee, and Dick was out of work. And I can remember, it sounds so tough, really, because I remember Murph, Paul's brother, whom I didn't even know at the time, knocking on our door at 11 o'clock at night with a snow shovel, because for Dick to go shovel snow. That's where they got money. And Dick was out of work, and Cheryl, I think, was still at the telephone company. And Patty, we didn't have any furniture. The welfare wouldn't, unless you were actually living in a place, they would have nothing to do with the situation. So anyways, we had to get all the furniture. We could line up the old furniture from the house and put it over my grandmother's empty house.
Oh.
And so when they come down to check it, it would be there. And it was. And they did get help done from social services.
Wow. But they didn't want to live there. They wanted to stay in the main.
Well, they thought they lived there. We told them we lied a little bit, maybe. I don't know.
Imagine that.
And so then they lived there for a while, and then they moved up on Mary Street. No, we lived on Mary Street before that, I think.
We moved to, oh yeah, Mary Street was before that. They
Before
lived
that.
near Aunt Addie. Right?
Yes, right.
And that was their first apartment after they got married, I
The
thought.
first apartment was on Mary Street.
Right.
Upstairs, in Mrs.
Right.
Christopher's house.
Right, Mrs.
64
Christopher.
Mary.
Yes, exactly. And then they couldn't afford that.
No,
And
right.
that's when they moved in with
Yeah,
our
this one,
grandmother.
because in the meantime he had lost his job because they moved out of town. And then then we had to set up a pretend place down next door to us and pretend they were living there, even though they were living with us, but we would put them over there anyway.
Roughly when would that have been? In what time frame?
1930, because I was living on Mary Street
Yes.
with Mrs. Christopher.
Yes,
What was
right.
her name?
Miss Christopher.
Miss Christopher, because she was good to me. And I've got their pictures in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So I was born in 1930, so it must have been about that time.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I don't know, I don't understand. Would it have been because after I was born and Mother was ill, she went to live with Grandma O'Connor.
Yes.
So did they have the house on Mary Street then?
No, after that I think they moved up on Mary Street.
Oh, after that?
Yeah, after that.
Oh,
Because you
okay.
were up on Mary Street. You were
Yes.
the baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So.
So they didn't live there too long, did
No,
they?
no, they're a few months on Mary Street, and then as I say, as he was out of work, and your mother wasn't making enough to pay the rent, and so on and so forth. So they moved down with us, and then the only way that social service had come into the picture was if they were living in a place and paying for it, So we fixed up a place.
Can you imagine?
How did you feel as a young girl when all these people moved in with you?
Oh, so we slept all over the place.
I slept with Peg.
Hey, I was living with you.
Mother slept with you
Yeah.
for a while.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, so those were the bad days.
So you just had a few bedrooms in that house, and
Oh no, we had 4 bedrooms in it. But my grandmother had to have one. It was her house. She didn't have her bedroom. And
so your parents had a bedroom, and the men had one, and the women had one, right?
Well, there were 4 of us in our bedroom. Jeannie and me, Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte and Francie and Dick. And it was a huge room, and it had two double beds in it. Charlotte and I slept in one, and the other slept in the other.
And I slept in the back room with Buzzy and Francie in the other bed in that back room when Buzzy was with us, I remember.
Maybe you bring her in too.
Or maybe she was just visiting then, I don't know. But I remember being in that back room and Francie was a teenager and he was so good. Here were all these kids sleeping with him.
And you slept wherever you got a bed. I guess that's the way it was.
Yeah.
So nobody had any privacy, huh?
Not until Grandma Corcoran died in 1934. And then Mother and Dad bought that 4-poster bed. I always remember that. And they were given her room. Remember?
Oh, were they?
That was the first time.
That was in 34.
Yeah, that they ever had a room of their own and slept together. So that was 4 years of celibacy. Think about that.
Stop and think of it all.
And it probably didn't happen right away because when did Grandma die? What month?
In December.
December 34.
She died on Pat's birthday. She was buried on mine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The 11th.
Yeah. She was laid out in the parlor.
Yep, I remember.
So tell
that.
the kids about the wake and people coming and
Yeah, she was made out of the pile. And I can remember lying on that thing before they brought the coffin in,
Yeah.
and we all went in and looked, see what they were doing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did they take her out of the house and embalm her and bring her back?
No, I think they embalmed her right in the living room.
I think so too. I vaguely remember them bringing the body downstairs and out to the living room because I was peeking, 4 years old and wondering what was going on.
So that was the episode up to that. Well, then where did you move after that?
Well, we lived with you until 1936, and then we moved on Maple Street.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Maple Street. That's right. You lived
Yeah.
you moved from the corner of Maple and Genesee. Yes.
Because apparently things must have been getting better money-wise.
Yeah.
then.
Well, I
They
think
could,
he went on. Well, that's where he went on the prison.
No, he didn't go on the prison till 41. So he was working in Alco, wasn't he?
And
Oh, he must have been. Oh, yes, he was in Alco.
playing baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I forgot. I should have done. I remember that cute little apartment up on Maple Street.
But it was only one bedroom,
Oh,
and I slept on a day bed in their bedroom.
wow.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, Peg, tell us about the money when the grandmother died. When your grandmother died.
You want to put that on there?
That's a good story, Peg.
Oh, yeah, but I was downstairs in the living room. Grandma's dying upstairs, and my mother and father are up there, I guess. Uncle Will arrived on the scene. He was around, too. So all of a sudden, Uncle Will comes down like a bat out of hell, and I am in the living room. I said, where are you going? I got to get to the bank. And so he had her name on a bank book, and nobody knew it. And he wanted to get to the bank before she died, so he could get the money out, see? And so this is what happened. And so he went to the bank, and he got the money out. And maybe my mother, who took care of all my grandmother's finances, didn't know that there was the bank book was there.
Wow.
So that was the episode on the bank book.
But who
It's
took?
only like $3,000 in it or something. Wasn't much money.
Which uncle came and took Grandma for a ride,
Yeah.
and she changed her will? Was that Uncle Will?
That's the episode. Yes,
That's Uncle
they
Will?
learned afterwards, after
Okay.
Grandma was buried and stuff. She was a friend of who was it? Well, he had an attorney who was that he knew. I can't think of his name right now. And who was it took her up though? I don't know. Somebody came and got her anyway. Oh, he did, because this uncle of mine was a bootlegger.
Uncle Jimmy.
Uncle Jimmy.
Uncle Jimmy.
But Uncle Jimmy wouldn't have taken her up, though. It was Uncle Will.
Uncle
He came and he drove her up, apparently, but nobody knew that she'd gone to see the attorney, and then she turned over this bank book.
Oh my gosh.
Because the poor thing didn't have any money, just these two little bits. There were two bank books that had like $3,000 a piece in them, And so Uncle Will wanted his money before, so he wouldn't have to go through probate on it. See?
So she
And-
changed the will.
Yes, so he took her up and she changed her will. And Grandma was very gullible. You could tell her to do anything, And Whalen is his name, the attorney.
Oh, and his niece, I met in Geneva. Marion, she's a nurse.
Yes, right.
And Uncle Will was her godfather.
Her godfather.
Oh,
Did you remember that?
Yes, yeah.
And well, anyways, they got the money out, but nobody knew poor Grandma had another bank book up there, and the attorney, she had gone and signed it off, and she wouldn't know the difference. She was childish, at that point. And so, we had some great little things going on.
Tell the kids about Uncle Will when he would come and he would dance through the house. Do you remember that, Peg?
Oh, yeah.
He was really very,
What?
entertaining or something. We loved
He was
him.
entertaining. He was free. She's the wind all the time,
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
You thought he was musical.
I did. I remember him dance. I think he'd take my hands.
Oh,
and
yeah.
dance me through the house, And I thought, oh, so good.
Yeah, he was going through, and I know he wanted me to come out to Ohio, and I said, all right, go after I graduated, in 35. And my mother wouldn't let me go. But he's mad himself. He don't know what he's doing.
Who paid his tuition at Holy Cross?
Well, yeah, Mary must have, because she's
okay.
the only one that had any money.
So what happened after she died? Now they read the will and they found out that somebody had played around with the will.
No, I don't even think she had a will. They didn't know she had a will until they saw that situation. And she didn't make out a will, and he just had the bank book signed over. You know, he knew how to do these things. He was a businessman from Ohio.
Well, what happened to the house though? Instead of your father getting the house,
Oh my God, they almost foreclosed on the house while they were still in it, I guess.
wow.
Because I went to Washington, I know, with and my Aunt May and Annie and them, you know. When I come back, we had moved. we had left Parker Street and we're up on Hamilton Avenue, and so they were very efficient. They didn't do anything. And my mother really had it rough because Grandma was got old and senile, and she was a problem, you know. And Aunt Minnie, who was her daughter, only came when it was time to pick up something she wanted, you know. And so that's as soon as my grandmother died, well, they wanted to put the house on the market, which they did.
Even though you were living in it,
Yeah. So we
That
moved
was
out.
awful, you know.
and even the furniture they wanted the other kids.
Well, they took a lot of stuff out of the house. They were very, you know. Every time Buzzy said she wanted something from her grandmother, they said, you should have got me in the garage up there. She had to have my grandmother's stuff up there.
Yeah.
But
So how did you move up to Hamilton Avenue? How did that work? That's a good story.
well, we went house hunting, and we looked all over. And see, my father was sort of, he never left the Ninth Ward, and he didn't want to leave it either, you know. And so I said, we can't involve him anyway, so we went house hunting.
You and your mother.
Yeah, and I don't know, Francie he probably didn't say anything, but he might have come. but anyways, they rented this house. I hadn't even seen the house yet. I went to Washington. When I come back, they had moved from Margaret Street up and I had to go up there to live. and so they had moved up, and my father, what was a funny situation. Somebody stopped down and told him down on the beat, he was working, he was not to report to Hamilton Avenue after work, because that's where he was living now.
He had no part in the move at all.
Okay. So anyways, he took him a while, but we got him around.
Isn't that funny?
They never told them they were going to move.
My poor mother, honest to God.
So then what did they do? They sold those 3 houses then?
Well, they sold all the houses, the 3 houses, you know. You know, and houses in those days about for $3,000, you know, Rick. It wasn't like today, you know. And so they sold it. And of course, my father owned a house down there too. The Forsyth was for my father's house.
And they sold that for $3,000.
Yes,
Didn't they? I
like
remember
$3,000.
that.
Remember that? Something like $3,000.
Why wouldn't they move into Forsyth's house?
The Forsyths were in it.
Oh, and they were renting? Forsyths
They were renting from us, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. And they wouldn't put them out.
See, and Grandma had the rent from the double house, and you had the rent from the little house, the little shingle house. So that's where she was getting her money, Rick, probably, you know, too, along with her assistants.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite an interesting little time, but
So your father was upset then with Minnie and
oh.
Will and all of them, huh?
Well, we were too, because my mother had killed herself and was taking care of Grandma in the house and everything else, you know, and then they all arrived when she died.
Now, was Mary dead by that time?
Pardon?
Was Mary?
Oh, Mary died when I was 5.
Oh.
Yeah, she'd been dead about 10 years, I think, around this time, or 8 years or something.
Wow.
So she had gone, but she was the one that I decided where the money came from.
Boy.
Was she as good to Aunt May as she was to Aha?
What'd you say?
Was Aunt Mary as good to Aunt May as she was to Aha, or am I confusing?
She wasn't related to Aunt May.
No.
She was on
The other side, my
She's a
father's
Corcoran.
side.
She was, okay. Yeah, all right. Got her mixed up.
Yeah, she wasn't related to Aunt May.
Well, then, she must have loved Aha a lot, right?
Yeah, she did. She was
More so than Aunt Minnie, let's say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't
Okay.
like
Who
Aunt
would have
Minnie.
been her blood relative? Yeah. Got all this, Rick?
We haven't hit on Aunt Charlotte yet.
It's all context and background, right? Yeah.
But in the meantime, Mother was around during all of this.
Oh yeah, she was around.
Yeah.
So then you, Mother, eventually you all moved to Grove Avenue. Is that what happened?
I was telling Rick, Pat, that my father loved your mother, and he did, and he had a reason to like her because she'd do anything he asked her to do. Where your father's a stubborn, bull-headed Irishman, you know, but you could get to do the things you wanted him to do, and he.
I'm gonna have to erase that part.
Charlie said, Gumpa?
Gumpa.
Was
I mean,
stubborn
you
Irish?
could buy a new car, and of course, in those days, to buy a new car was an unbelievable thing, you know. And Charlotte wanted some dirt for my father wanted some dirt for the garden or something like that. And my mother said, "Don't you put any dirt." And my mother defended
It was
Dick,
horse
you know.
manure. It wasn't
manure.
dirt. It was
You remember.
fertilizer. Yeah.
Don't you put any dirt in their car.
Yeah.
And so we turned around and Charlotte took them down and they got the dirt and they put the brand new car, filled it with dirt, you know? and then they come home and they spent the whole rest of the day cleaning the car so Dick wouldn't know that they put dirt in the car.
That must have been an exciting time.
Peg, remember when we got the telephone?
Oh yes, remember that?
What's the story about that? I can remember them putting the telephone in. It was like, oh,
It's on the shelf there in the,
Yeah.
in the
yeah,
dining room.
yeah. Was that because Mother worked in the telephone office, or how did?
I really don't know.
Oh, I thought there was a story to that.
Which house was that now?
In Parker Street.
Oh.
But there was an old black coal stove in the
Kitchen with coal stove.
Yeah, and I can remember Aha and Mother ironing with the iron over there.
Oh, the stove, on the stove.
And they'd have 3 of those, and they'd have 2 heating and 1 they're using, and then they put it back when it got cool. And Aha'd be ironing, and Mother'd be ironing, and then they'd take the ironing board and put it over the sink,
Eh.
and I'd lay on it, and they'd wash my hair in the
Yeah.
sink. Remember, there was some crazy thing. And tell the kids about the basketball hoop in
Oh
the
my
kitchen.
God, you remember that?
Oh, yes.
we had a pantry, Rick, and it had a door, naturally a door on it. So they put the hat, the straw hat, you know, in the thing to keep it. And then they play basketball out there. And you can imagine you go out in the kitchen, you're allowed to get killed.
And the kitchen wasn't all that big, you know, and they're shooting baskets.
They're shooting baskets out. And every Sunday night, regardless of whether it was midnight or 3 in the morning, we had to put the clothes to soak. Remember? The pan in the kitchen?
Yeah.
And my mother would come home and she'd put the clothes to soak, no matter what time it was, you know. And start getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning and doing the washing.
Oh,
Every
'cause
Monday.
Monday was wash day.
Washing it.
And if it was freezing cold, the sheets would go out.
Yeah, and then you bring them
freeze.
in.
Yeah.
My father's underwear.
With the trap door. Oh, Lord.
Wow.
Oh.
So all this time that Mother was living with you, what was going on with her family, her mother and father and?
Well, Art was in and out quite a bit. I mean, he used to go down to New Orleans, you know, and he'd go to any of these places where they, you know, were having ball games, you know, because that's what he was, I guess, a professional umpire. And then he came up with his bathroom.
Did he put his bathrobe on?
He was a big man, you know, like this.
He was a colorful man. Was he a shady character or?
No, but I think he just was impressed with himself. And poor Mrs. O'Connor was she was doing so much, you know, because she was taking care of the house, the kids, and everything else. And he was just a gentleman. That's all.
And he made his living as an umpire. I mean, is that?
Yeah. And then,
You know, there was a gambling part of that too, wasn't there? Mm.
Yes. And I'd always heard that he was a little rough on Paul and Frank and Mother, that they had a rough time. And Mother had to go to work when she was 13 in the 5 and 10 cent store.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's when she left high school, shortly after that. Wasn't it?
I never knew your mother then, so I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
know.
yeah. And she told me this, and she would take her money, whatever it was, home to her mother because Grandpa O'Connor would be gone, and then there was no money coming in. And so Paul went to work, Frank went to work, and Mother did, and it was their money that was keeping Grandma and Reet and Leo going, you know. And then
I know Paul used to referee, didn't he? Your brother, your
Uncle Paul, I don't know, maybe.
I think he did.
Yeah. I think they had a rough time, and I think Paul, I know, Paul wanted to be a priest, remember that? And they wouldn't let him go, or the Grandpa O'Connor wouldn't, or something. It was sad, whatever it was. Mother said, he always should have been a priest. That's what he wanted. So I think he left home early on, and
You know, he was very religious. I didn't know
Yeah.
what he did.
and then the father died and left them without any income.
right? Yeah.
You know, when did he die?
When did him on Still County Day?
I want to say, I can remember him maybe, 35 maybe? 30, because I can remember Mother telling me that they didn't have any money to bury him, and so they all got together, Frank, Paul, and Mother, because the other two were too young, and Mother had to come up with $75 towards the burial, and she and Dad didn't have it, and it was really difficult. I don't know how they got it, but they buried the man anyways, and it wasn't a happy occasion.
They're right at the gates at Fort Hill Cemetery.
Yeah.
Because remember the street?
Yes.
Right there is Fort Hill Cemetery.
Yeah, yeah.
But they buried him in
St.
Elizabeth's family's grave, right?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, he's
Family.
buried in St. Joseph's.
Yeah, he's buried in St.
Yeah.
Joseph's, yeah.
But they didn't have their own grave site, so they had to use Elizabeth's.
Yes. Yeah. And so then, now Mother and Dad were married then, so yeah, if it was 35.
Mm-hmm.
And then Grandma O'Connor and Reet and Leo and Frank moved up on South Street in the apartments across from the theater. Remember that, the Shine Theater? And they lived on the
yes, I remember they were
the
there,
third
right.
floor or something.
Right.
And we used to sit in the window
You
and
just sit in the window.
watch people going to the movies for
Yeah.
10 cents across the
Yeah, I remember they lived up there in the apartments. Mary and Margaret was downstairs.
Yes.
Go down and get
Mary
ice
and
cream cones.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember that, Pat? Were they there when you
No,
were born?
no,
that was
no.
before, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But they were poor there. They didn't
Yeah.
have anything. And I can remember Grandma O'Connor would make creamed codfish, which I don't think our father liked at all. But I don't know that they even went there to eat, but I can remember her making creamed codfish, which was cheap in those days. Real cheap. You know, whereas Ahad, they have a ham and potatoes and corn, and, you know, she always put on a big
Yeah.
spread of food. But
But then they had to give up that apartment and they got all spread out.
They moved up on Holly Street after that, didn't they?
I thought she went to
Yeah.
Syracuse, and that's when.
Well,
Leo
maybe
came
she
to
did.
live
Maybe
with
she
you.
You're
did.
right. You're right. And I was 10 years old then, so now we're in 1940. We moved on Grove Avenue from Maple Street. And things were really looking up then, financially, I guess. Mother was working, Dad was at Alco because they bought all new furniture
Yes. Oh, did they?
for Grove Avenue. Well, actually for Maple Street too, they bought. The blue chair was a big buy. The blue chair that Chris has now. And then they split up. The O'Connors did, and Leo came to live with us.
Leo went to live with you, I know.
And
But he lived with you on Grove Avenue, didn't
yes,
he? Yeah.
on Grove Avenue. He was still in high school, I think.
Oh.
He went to Holy Family.
Holy Family.
Yeah, he was a good football player.
And where did Reed go?
Grandma O'Connor went to Syracuse to live with Paul. Did Reed get married, maybe? I'm not sure.
What year would that have been?
Well, it would have been 1940 if I was 10. I remember being 10 years old on Grove Avenue because it was the year of the World's Fair in New York, remember?
Oh, yeah.
That was 39. The World's Fair was
39
39.
and 40
so-
because we went to
yeah,
World's Fair in
so-
New York.
Yeah, so those are the years we were there, and we were there till 41, and then the next move was Woodburn. Yeah.
But I don't even think little Charlotte is going to know where Charlotte comes in on this conversation.
No, well.
Well, she's putting up with all this all the time, so.
Yeah.
So
all
then
these moves.
when they moved to Woodburn, she had to tell her brother he had to go live someplace else. Is that?
Well, 41. See, then the war started, and yeah, where did Leo go then? He went in the service quickly, but he went to CBA in Syracuse, Leo did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he lived with Paul then, in Graham O'Connor.
Oh, okay.
And then he must have graduated from CBA, and then he went into the service, I think.
Oh, okay.
But Kate can fill us in on
Well,
that.
the reason he went to live with you was he wanted to go to Holy Family, didn't he stay in Holy Family, and
Yeah.
he couldn't afford to send him to school, private school in Syracuse, so he stayed with you, you know.
Yeah.
But
And when we were in Grove Avenue, we had a cleaning lady, Stella. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Things must have been good then. And Stella would come, however often, and clean through. And we had a rug that had all this fringe on it. And Stella would take each piece of fringe and straighten it. And our father thought she walked on water. Because Mother didn't do that. Mother, around. She didn't have time, I said. And he made such an issue over that fringe being straightened out. I always remember that. And to make ends meet, they rented one of the rooms out. Mother had a friend at the telephone office, Margie somebody. And they rented the back room to her. And she was not very neat. And Dad was
that was,
having
what's her
a
name?
fit.
Margie Guerin, the one
Yeah.
that ended up Margie Guerin.
Yeah,
Yeah, she was Al Guerin's wife.
yeah.
And I remember she left that bathroom in a mess,
Yes.
and when you
Oh.
leave Dick's bathroom in a mess, you better get out.
Oh, he had a fit. And that was an awkward time. And poor Mother, she didn't know what to
Because
do.
you and she worked in the telephone company together.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
worked together
that's right.
in the phone company.
Oh, my
Yeah. But they'd have great parties, the telephone girls.
Yeah, I know.
They'd get together and they'd have a good
That's
time.
Ethel, what's the name of your friend there?
Ethel, yeah, and Genevieve, and my God, Genevieve. What was it?
Anderson.
Yeah, but what were the sisters? Emmeline, Emma-Jean, and my God, Genevieve. They'd say, remember?
Yeah.
Emmeline.
I mean,
They were all friends of Mother's, anyways,
Oh.
from the phone office. Telephone.
oh, yeah, I remember.
And this is fun. I was going to school at St. Mary's School from the 1st grade to the 6th grade, and it was right across the street from the telephone office where Mother worked. And she'd have a break in the morning. We'll say if she was working 9 to 1, at 11 o'clock she'd have a relief, I guess they called it. And so at 11, she'd tell me, at 11 o'clock I'd go to the window. I was like in 3rd grade, and I'd look across the street, and she'd be in the window in the telephone office, and we'd wave at each other.
They'd go to work, and then they'd come home work, and they'd say, "Did you hear what somebody has just called somebody out?"
They'd listen in.
Listening in. Remember?
Yeah.
George, what's his name, up on East Genesee Street? Don't you remember he was a newspaper man? Yes, he had a girlfriend, and you used to keep track of them.
Oh, Lord.
Goodness.
Then when, every once in a while, and I don't know what the reason would be, but I would meet Mother after school, must be, and she'd take me to the Busy Bee for a chocolate peanut sundae.
Oh,
That would
remember?
be the treat. And of course, I was humongous. I can't imagine. But we did it.
The only kid that ate more apples than did.
That was fun.
Ethel Carroll, I was trying to think of her name.
Ethel Carroll.
Ethel
that
Carroll,
was a
she was your friend.
Yeah.
So, Gene, this would have taken place in the mid to late 30s.
Yes, that was in the 30s.
You were in third grade. You were probably 8 years old or thereabout.
Yeah, probably 1938.
Mm-hmm. And is that how they got through the Depression, basically, with her working and renting rooms, that whole thing, just to survive, right?
But then Dad was working at Alcoa in the late 30s.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he was clever. He was a tool. What did he
Tool
do?
designer or something.
Tool
I don't know.
designer or something. Because I remember when he went with the prison, it was a totally different career
Uh-huh.
change. It was like,
Yeah.
whoever heard of being a prison guard, except for the money, right? The money was good.
But when was the time that he worked on building Mercy Hospital and passing out papers? That was during the Depression, like
Well, they were building the Mercy Hospital the year Jeannie was born.
1930.
Because I thought that she was going to heaven as an angel. I remember that day, the day we were over there, the bishop came to break the ground, the breaking of the ground, for the Mercy Hospital. And I was there with Jeannie in the baby carriage. She was in the baby carriage. And the bishop came along and he stopped at the carriage and blessed the baby. And oh my God, I thought she was...
I didn't know that.
Well, there you go.
Oh, that's why.
That explains everything, doesn't it?
I couldn't wait to get home to tell everybody that she'd been blessed by the bishop. It was like the God coming down and blessing her. And then, so you were born 30?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, that was 31 then.
Yeah, oh, for heaven's sakes.
oh,
What were Christmases like on Parker Street, Peg?
And what?
What were Christmases like during the Depression?
Well, every year the Christmas tree was crooked. And nobody go out and buy a standard, so we put it in a pail of coal. Oh, what's interesting.
And I can remember Mother telling me that they'd wait till Christmas Eve to go down and buy whatever little gifts they could, hoping that things would be marked down or something, or...
Something probably, I don't remember too much about Christmas. I know I got something and that's all I was interested in.
But maybe you got one thing, right? You didn't get a humongous...
Oh no, well, if you got a doll, that was it. I
Yeah.
mean, you didn't get just 6 dolls or anything like this,
Yeah.
And so I remember, everybody got one present anyways.
And Dee Dee would send home a box of presents. She was in the convent. Remember, Peg? And the guys would laugh because she'd send Francie a comb, a little tiny comb. Remember that? And then, things like that. I remember she sent me a little tiny dog. Little teensy weensy dog, and we'd all open these gifts and we'd go, "Oh, isn't this wonderful?" You can imagine Dad and Francie. I wish I could remember some of the other things, but that's what the nuns did in those days.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have any money either, but they were.
oh.
Those were fun.
Mother used to say that every once in a while you'd get an orange for Christmas.
Get a what?
An orange.
An orange?
Yeah, and
Oh
that
yeah,
would-
there used to be a lot of those out there.
Really? Is that what a typical present would be? In one orange, huh?
Oh my God.
In your stocking. Would it be in your stocking?
Yeah.
I wonder if that was at her when she was growing up as
Maybe,
a kid.
maybe when she was growing up, yeah.
It wasn't like what these kids get now, believe me, I'm telling you.
Oh gosh, no.
So now, what time now during this period was Buzzy living with you? Now this was when Mom and Dad were courting, right? That
Yeah.
Buzzy came because she used to
Yeah.
sit in the back of their car. or
Buzzy
something.
she was before you were married though, I think. She came to live with us she was born in 1926, I think. And she came when she was 6 months old. She first lived with us.
Oh.
And yeah, she had whooping cough.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody would take care of her. And Molly caught it from her mother. So we were trying to so lease the baby out to somebody that who wasn't afraid of it. So my mother took her. And I remember she slept downstairs all the while with Buzzy in the crib next to her, you know what I mean, because she'd cough and then she'd choke.
Oh.
Imagine that. Oh, gosh.
And so, and I mean, like, I couldn't go wheel her out in front or anything. My father would have to go, before he went to work, he'd take her out and wheel her up and down the carriage. And so we kept her, and then from then on, she always lived at our house. I mean, her birthdays and everything, she came back down there, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So, but...
Did her mother like come over and see her every once in a while? Or?
Oh, well, yeah, when she got so she was up and around, because Molly had really... And Minnie took Rhodey, and my mother took Buzzy. And so, we had the kids.
Wow.
My mother was a great one. We just kept the door open, anybody wanted to come in. I remember Gert Shaw lived with us. This one, I don't know, this young girl down the street lived with us. We had people living with us all the time.
Mariana Corcoran.
Yeah, Mariana. Oh, what about that? I want to. Buzzy says you knew where Mariana was.
Yeah, yeah.
Where?
I gave a talk at the Episcopal Church home, and this lady came up to me.
Now, where is this, in Rochester?
In Rochester, right. And she said that she knew Mariana Corcoran, and that, what did I say, Jean? Her brother had married?
Yeah.
Her brother was married to Mariana Corcoran.
Her brother was?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is right now.
Is right now, yeah. And they live in Florida.
Because Mariana lived in Rochester, you know,
Yeah,
when she
yeah.
was a little.
Yeah. So tell us about what happened, why she came to live with you.
Oh, Mariana?
Yeah.
Well, she didn't actually come to live with us, Patty. She did live with us because her mother died in childbirth. And Jimmy was completely off his rockery, and so he came down there and he brought Mariana with him, you know, and he stayed with us for quite a while.
So he stayed with you too.
Yes, when she was little, you know, and then we always kept in touch with him. But I mean, it was because of Eloise's death that she, you know, eventually landed with us.
Wow.
We sort of kept the door open. Anybody wanted to come in, just came in.
Because we were still there then. I can remember Mariana.
Right, you remember Mariana.
Oh, goodness, where did...
So that was quite a shock then, right? She wasn't sick or anything? They didn't expect that she was going to die?
No, she died in childbirth.
Wow.
So... Well, we have a lot of stories of our family when they had...
And then eventually he just left and took her to Rochester?
Took her to Rochester with him, and then... Well, she lived with Lillian, her mother's sister, for quite a while down on Hamilton Avenue.
Oh.
And then she went to Rochester with Jimmy. I guess they thought she was getting too attached to Jimmy, to the sister, so he took her up there with him. So then she was in Rochester with Jimmy.
Wow.
Right.
And then he met Kitty soon after and married her, right?
And then he met Kitty and he
Then,
married her.
yeah.
I've forgotten all about them until she mentioned it in me. Marianne, I got pictures of her when she was little.
Wow. Oh, it would be nice to see her, you know. I
Wasn't
wonder if
it?
she remembers when she lived with you.
I was wondering if it was somebody she might have known when she lived in Rochester or something, you know what I mean?
Well, this woman would be her sister-in-law.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now that Ray Corcoran lived with you too, right?
Pardon?
Ray Corcoran, he lived with you?
Oh, he lived with us for years.
Oh.
He moved in too.
That was on Hamilton Avenue.
He was on Hamilton Avenue. He left our house to go in the service that morning. I see him walking down the street. I sang goodbye. He was leaving.
Oh.
Tell the kids, Peg, about you and Mother going horseback riding.
Oh, yes. We had quite a career, Charlotte and I. Every Tuesday we went horseback.
Now, this was on Hamilton Avenue.
Yeah,
I
this
remember
is
you going from there.
right. We went to Dana Moore one time and we took our horseback stuff with us. And I said, but did you remember Charlotte and I coming up and riding horseback in Dana Moore?
Dale Evans and Roy Rogers.
We thought we looked nice in the outfit, the whole thing.
You did. I remember Mother looked beautiful in those jodhpurs. She was something else.
We went down and bought the whole office, Charlotte and I. We thought we were really going to go big on horses.
So where did you go riding horses?
Oh, up to the stables up here on Lake Avenue, you know. And we used
Oh.
to go up there, and then we used to go out and towards Union Springs, and there was another stable up there.
Oh my goodness.
But, so
Was that the thing to do then? I mean, that was pretty special. You had to pay for it, right?
Oh yes, we had to pay for
So,
it.
yeah. Mother was a great swimmer too, wasn't she?
Yeah, she liked to swim too.
Did she go to the Y?
She used to go to the Y.
Yeah, because she started taking me to the Y, so I would
Uh-huh.
learn to swim, and I didn't like it at all. I remember that. And she would sit up. There was a window, like where you could look in,
Yeah.
and I'd be in having lessons, and she'd sit there and watch me. And I can imagine she probably just shook her head. I didn't want to get wet. I didn't want to swim. And the teacher, you know, I remember one day she made me go off the diving board. I was scared to death. And Mother was there watching. I thought, oh dear God.
Oh my goodness.
But she was athletically inclined. Mother was.
She was what?
Athletically inclined.
Yeah, she
wasn't
was.
she?
Yeah.
So her leg must have been better than.
I
You
don't
know,
think
in the
I
late
think that she
30s.
had a genie till the day she died.
Yeah, she always had trouble.
She always, every morning, the first thing she'd do was wrap her leg up.
Mm-hmm.
And she had that all those years, you know, and of course then they didn't do anything for him, I don't think.
Yeah.
And, but she liked to dance too.
She liked to dance.
Yeah. And so,
Where would they dance? Would they?
after, well, the pavilion, of course.
Oh, 10
We
cents
always
a
had
dance.
The
Oh,
big bands up there every
yes.
year, don't you know, Tommy Dorsey and
Yes, that's right. And Dad was such a good dancer.
Yeah,
He was great.
They used to go, it's 10 cents a dance. You
Yeah.
go there.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I think even Joe went over there and danced for 10.
Huh?
I think Joe used to go over there too.
I think he probably did too.
You talked about that.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
That was a place to go when you were young.
And there was as many people stood around the windows outside as there were on the dance floor, you know, because I mean everybody was, it was a big deal. We had all the big bands. I can remember when Harriet Hilliard was a girlfriend to what's her husband's name there?
Ozzie Nelson.
Oh, yeah.
And
To Ozzie.
they weren't married then. They were they were at the pavilion.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Mm-hmm.
On the lake, so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So then when we went to Woodburn, that must have been sad for you, right? When everybody went to move to Woodburn.
What year did you go to Woodburn, you know?
41.
41?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go with 41?
Uh-huh.
Because the postman told me it was a 40. He told me that you threw your arms around him.
No, that was Mother threw her arms around me.
Yeah, I mean, your mother did.
Yeah, did you hear that
So
story?
tell that story. That's a good one.
Tell them that story.
Well, your father taking the exam for the prison, you know, and they lived across the road from where I live now, you know, in the double house. And anyways, the man that peddled her may have peddled ours too, and he was a little short man, Mr. Somebody or other. Do you remember?
Yeah.
About this high. So he could tell them, he said, I think your sister-in-law's having a spell or something. He said, I'm down on his birthday. I said, why, is she sick? He said, no. Then he told me about you throwing your arms around him. And he said, I guess she got the letter she was looking for.
She threw her arms around the postman.
And what was the news that she got?
The dad got the appointment to
Into the prison?
And you have to. He was thin, and there was a physical he had to satisfy, and you had to be a certain weight.
Yes,
get
right.
appointed.
Oh, God, we were always filling him with
Oh.
everything to make him way up here.
Every time you turned around, the poor guy, banana milkshakes. I remember that. And he would eat, trying to get the weight up to go for the physical to see if he couldn't pass it to get on to prison. Because the prison was a good job then. It
It's
was
the time I
steady.
told his father wrote to John Foster Dulles to Janet Avery and to see if where Dick was on this list and why he wasn't being called.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because remember, what's his name got appointed
Peg.
off the same list? Al Guerin, and he got appointed ahead of Dick, and Dick was out of we were out of our mind. Where was his pull coming from? That he got appointed first, you know? And so we were all going crazy over why he hadn't heard.
Oh. So that was the fun, going to Woodburn.
Oh, it wasn't fun. Dad was, he didn't like Woodburn at all. Remember? Out of the fog, the horror descended. I remember he went down to Woodburn, and it was in December, I think he got the appointment, which was a terrible time of the year. And it was foggy, and as you come over from La Sheldrake, you go up a hill, and then you come over the hill, and there's the prison, and it's like Wuthering Heights, you know, scary.
Just those lights in the bar, just
And it was like, oh my gosh. He was not a happy camper.
And you were, we were down. Well, you were down with us then, and things. I can remember Dick walking in after his first weekend in prison.
Oh yeah. Oh.
I think he had died. he could. The first night he had off, he drove all the way from Woodburn home.
Every day off.
Every day
off. Back to Auburn we went forever. You know. It's snow. Oh my God, we come through Homer and Cortland. The snow would be a mile high. Got to go to God's country.
Go to God's country.
Got to go to God's country. And poor Mother, she liked it in Woodburn.
Huh?
Mother liked Woodburn.
Yes,
she made a lot of friends. They both did.
Right.
But he never had a happy day there.
The first night he hadn't slept for a week. He looked so awful. We took him in. I thought he was going to have a stroke, you know. He looked so awful.
Yeah.
He didn't like Woodburn at all.
It was quite a change from Auburn.
Yes, it was quite a
going
change.
from dark to daylight.
Yes.
But Mother really, she adjusted nicely.
Yeah, so she been adjusted to things nicely anyways,
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
But down next to the church, you know, the synagogue.
That's where they live, next to the
And then
synagogue.
Pat was born, and that was a bright light in our
Yeah, it
life.
really was.
Next to the synagogue.
Yeah, yeah. And Mother went right to work in the telephone office in Fallsburg.
Did she?
As soon as she was able. I can't remember exactly, but she was always working there,
Yeah.
in between kids and what have you.
I know
she had a good job. She was good. She was like a supervisor,
Yeah.
you know. And then she got me in when I was in high school. And that was a good deal for summer work, you know. It was a very good job.
Did you work at the telephone company?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you?
In Fallsburg, and then in Liberty, when they moved to Liberty. I
Oh.
worked there in the summertime. That's how I got through school. That's where that $4,000 came from. Came from the telephone company, if the truth were known.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
Oh.
But then you didn't like it when you first went down there, right? You should tell that story, Jean.
Oh, yikes.
Because little Charlotte would like to know what you did.
I was in the 6th grade, and they moved down in December, I think. I think he got appointed in December, so I don't know. They had to rent a house, and anyways, it was the middle of the school year, and you know, coming from Auburn, a Catholic school, and going to a country school where there are 2 grades in one room, it was a real switcheroo. But anyways, I went to school the first day, and I was dressed to kill with a pretty coat and a hat and gloves to match, and, you know, just like you'd wear in Auburn. And the kids down there were like, you know, what is this? And they made fun of me. Oh, it was awful. And so that night, walking home, I had to walk from the school over the bridge up to our house next to the synagogue, and the kids were teasing me. And when we got on the bridge, they took my hat and threw it in the river.
They did?
Yeah. Oh, yes, because that's when I went back to Auburn. So then I started crying, and I ran all the way home, and Dad was there. Whoa, he blew his top. He went down to the school. He found out who the kids were. He went to all their parents. He was going to kill them. I remember one boy's name was Bernstein. His father ran a 5 and 10 cent store. And Dad went in and he was going to blow up the whole store. So he said right then and there, "You're never going back to that school." The next weekend they took me back to Auburn, to Ahas, and I finished the year out back at St. Mary's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it was it 5th grade or 6th grade? I can't remember. But then in the summer, I went back to Woodburn, reluctantly. Mm-hmm. And that fall, I started school again with the same group. And
They didn't dare to do it again, probably.
I had lost a lot of weight. I can remember that.
It was called stress.
Yeah, stress.
The trauma.
And the funny part of it was that those kids that teased me turned out to be my best friends, and, you know. But Dad was so mad. Oh, he was gonna. You're not going back to that school. Zoom, I'm up back at our house. Oh Lord. Do you remember that, Peg?
No.
Well, you would have been married and gone. You might have been in Boston probably with Paul, because that was 42.
Oh, 42, yeah.
You would have been gone. And Aho and Grandma were so glad to see me. "Oh, you come live with us. That's good, you know. Go back to St. Mary's, a good school."
Yeah. Just like they were good to Buzzy whenever she ran away from home.
Yeah. I wound up being valedictorian in the 8th grade.
See?
There you go.
You what?
I was valedictorian in the 8th grade. Remember, Peg? You were there.
Yeah, well, I was too, so don't break.
Uh-oh. But there were only 4 kids in my class. And one flunked. I mean, there were 5, but one flunked.
So your name was engraved on the wall. I know that. For posterity.
There you go.
I was just telling Patty, I know the Charlotte told me that she was valedictorian down at St. Aloysius when she graduated from 8th grade.
Well, I've got her pin. You're right.
I know she told me that.
I've got her pin from St. Aloysius.
See?
8th grade.
I was right. Your mother.
There you go.
Wow.
So she was very smart.
And Jean followed in her footsteps.
It was just the times that Mother lived in, you know, the things were so hard. She and Dad both should have been able to go to college.
Yeah.
So should you,
Oh,
Peg.
Peg, yeah.
Of all the group, you and Francie were by
Oh,
far
God.
brilliant, you know.
We were lucky to get where we did.
Like no one ever talked of college then. Did any of your friends go to college?
Well, they had to have the money. I can remember when my mother paid for my Syracuse thing for it over there.
Business school, yeah.
An insurance policy. They used to take out on babies, you know, for 10 cents a week or something.
Yeah.
Then when you got to be a certain age, they cashed them in and you went to school on them. Because I don't know, my father didn't go for it. My mother wouldn't talk to him about it. I don't know which way I was.
Yeah.
But that's what they would pay. Now Francie, I always felt bad about him because he should have gone to college. And the reason he didn't go to college was because he had to keep all his friends out there in Ypsilanti, Michigan, going to school. And Francie would stay home here and work his butt off, and Gib Brown and Joey Corcoran and Leo Barron and all of them, they went to Ypsilanti, and none of them had any money. So every time they'd short, they'd call Francie up or send him a letter, you know, and then he'd send them the money to, because I was saying to Bernie the other day, remember Bernie? I said he had a drawer full of money up there. He used to bring it home and just put it in the drawer every week. And but he kept most of those kids in school out there.
So what was that, a college or what?
Yeah, Southern Michigan.
Oh.
So they went out there. And
So what did Francie do? He went to work in Alcoa before he went into service?
yes, he went to Alcoa before he went in the service. And like everything else, Francie could have gone places too, but he was one of these people that you aren't beholden to anybody for jobs and things like that. He didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
So when he came back, Ted Lathrop said, "Oh, my boy is back now," and his boy never went near him. So.
Well, Francie was real smart in school too, wasn't he?
Pardon?
Oh, yeah.
Francie was real smart in
He
school.
was very smart in school. And Francie, he liked school. I mean, he would have done all right in school. Because Bernie and I were talking a lot, laughing about it last night. I said, Bernie, he had the money, but it's always up in the dresser drawer.
Oh.
But see, John, he and Dick went to play ball at Elko.
Yeah. They were great ball players, really great. Dad pitched and Francie played first base. Or did Dad play in the... Who was on third?
What year?
What position did they play?
Francie played third base.
Third base.
And Dick was a pitcher.
Yeah, they were so good. And that park would be packed when they played.
That was softball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But every night it was packed.
And Harry Nation played with him. And Leo was a
And Panjo.
ball boy.
Yeah,
I got
right.
pictures of him, yeah.
They played different groups, like from Rochester and
Frank used to play some too,
And Frank
Jeannie.
did?
Did he?
Yeah. But
And we'd all walk over at night from Hamilton Avenue. Remember?
Yeah.
We'd walk
I
over
remember.
to the ball game.
I remember walking on Parker Street up there to see
Oh.
that game. And I just think my mother must have gone nuts because we'd all sit down at the table and gobble our food and run the ball game. I wouldn't get any meals for these people.
But Dad was a real good ball player, huh?
Pardon?
Dad was a real good ball player.
Yes, he was a very good ball player. And I was reading a piece, I was cleaning out the drawers the other day, and it was when they wrote when Francie died, you know, somebody wrote a eulogy. And he said he was the best third baseman that they ever had in the city of Auburn.
Oh,
So I don't know, you know.
yeah. He was so
That's
good.
nice.